It's wonderful to see so many friendly faces in the audience. And it is an absolute pleasure for me to be here today with Taavet. So quick hands up for those who can see and hear me in the front row. Who knows Taavet's story? Hands up if yes. Okay, we have about 50-50 here. So Taavet, to put it into a nutshell, first employee at Skype, founder at TransferWise, now known as Wise. Market cap, I think, today was quite high still. And more recently has founded a VC firm in 2017, currently on Fund 2. So about 500 million raised, I think, give or take. So we have a lot of ground to cover. So welcome, Taavet. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
It's a real pleasure. So I think we all woke up this morning, likely with some conflicted feelings about what is going on in the world. So I want to start with rewinding us a little bit. So let's get in our time machine and fly back to, I think it's 2001. Where are you at that point?
I'm in Tallinn, and Tallinn, Estonia in 2002 was very different. It was it'd been independent for 10 years, but it was still pretty grim-looking. Mm-hmm. We were building technology on the outskirts of Tallinn in kind of old Soviet 5-story apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. So very different to the Tallinn we see now, or the glitzy technology headquarters that we're used to associating with building tech companies.
Yeah, it's come a long way in that time for sure. But so the world was sort of burning in the tech sphere, at least, right? 2000, 2001, everything had basically fallen off a cliff. So you decided to join a company called Skype. I'm just curious, what was your motivation at that point? Why was that an appealing thing for you to do?
I think even to put it more in context, so I had started working during high school. I got a job as a software developer. I just thought, you go to high school, it takes up, 4 hours a day, and you have another 8 hours to do mischief. Right? Or you can go and try to do something useful, and you still have time for mischief. So I got a job as a software developer before, and then at some point I had actually quit my job, thinking that I'm now gonna focus on going to university, get this computer science degree that my mom is really keen about. Yep. But then I pretty quickly that turned into a fork in the road where I was chatting to a couple of people who were really keen for me to get to join them and work with them. And one of the duo was Niklas and Janos, who had built a program called Kazaa.
Yep.
So I had these two, somewhat crazy dudes who built a weird program and who at the time were really kind of on the run from all of the US recording industry lawyers who were trying to get them.
Yeah.
And then I had some offer to join a very traditional software company in Estonia. And to me, it felt like the Niklas and Janos option is just a lot better. Like I was sure that these guys are far from being done causing mischief in the world. Mm-hmm. And, the idea for Skype really hadn't surfaced at that point.
Yeah.
But to me, it was a choice of, hey, here's some people who are building something interesting. Mm-hmm. No idea what this is going to come up with, mm-hmm. where we're going to end up. Very likely 6 months from now, they're going to tell us, hey, nothing worked. But then I still have the option of going to work for the local bank.
It was still there. What did your mum say?
I think a more interesting story with my mom is when I got my job during high school. I actually went to work. My friend Sten had started a company building websites, and I went to work for Sten during high school. Mm-hmm. My mom gave a call to Sten's mom saying, can you tell Sten to make sure Taavet will graduate from high school?
Okay, and you did, right?
I did.
Okay, fantastic. Did you have, so you were pivoting around quite a lot in the early days, right? With Skype, trying to figure out what to do. Did you have any idea about the impact that would go on to have just on global communications? Was that like a thing that you were like, wow, yes?
So I think what was kind of more driving me was doing something new and interesting. I found it hard in my life to do things over again.
Yep.
So to me, it's always been interesting to do something new. Even kind of pre-Skype, I remember back then, a website was a very static thing. Mm-hmm. To change the text on a website, you had to call the developer. So we built the first content management system. So that was pretty cool. You build something new, and then the marketing person can go and change text on the website. It was unheard of at the time.
Yeah.
And building Skype to me was kind of similar. We're building something new. I'll be completely honest, I was 20 years old and I couldn't imagine the internet, how big it's going to be. Like the internet back then was maybe sub 100 million people around the world.
Oh, it's insane.
So it was very hard to imagine the amount of impact Skype will have on the world when we were getting it started. It was hard to imagine it's going to work in the first place.
Yeah. And was there a moment where, there is a request from the audience to turn up the volume a little bit to our magical people behind the screen? By the way, he's called George behind the scene, so please direct questions at him. Is that any better? Can you guys hear me? We still have up signals. Shall I just talk louder?
Scream.
Is that better? All right, my voice is, there we go. Now we've got some power. Hello Barcelona. Was there a moment, Julia's saying they have headphones. Hello.
Quick hello from the backstage. There's also headphones for anybody who wants to listen it through headphones. I know a lot of you are already seated down, but if anyone at the top wants to listen to the session, there's a coat rack with headphones that allows you to listen to it like if it was radio. That's it.
So there is headphones, but hopefully now you can hear me. Is that true? Front row? Back row? Yes. Okay, thank you. And it's always a bit of a risk being sort of the first people sitting down on stage, so feedback is super helpful. So thank you, much appreciated. Back to Skype. So was there a moment where you guys were like, holy crap, we're onto something?
That moment came pretty quickly. I mean, it was, again, I'll be honest, I don't think I totally understood the compounding effect back then, but we launched Skype kind of, I think it was a Friday night, and on Monday we had 100 people using it. Next Monday it was 200 people. Jesus. So you could kind of like start extrapolating from there.
And nothing broke?
We don't talk about that. But we had
for the speakeasy afterwards, by the way.
It's a funny thing. I think one of the chief engineers, I think Jan was famous for saying it's never going to work. People will not want to speak to the computer. So we had a lot of skepticism in the team, but there was a lot of excitement about we're building something new. And I literally remember the first test calls where we were holding a computer to our ear because computers didn't have microphones, they didn't have speakers back then. So it was a big leap of faith.
Oh my God!
But I think what it does illustrate is kind of the importance of taking risk, but also getting the timing right.
Yep.
People had tried to build voice over IP before Skype, but at that moment, there was enough broadband in the world to make it work, and the computer processing speeds were high enough to make it work.
Yep.
And that's kind of like very similarly applies to building TransferWise. When building TransferWise in 2010, 2011, enough people were willing to trust the internet to move money around.
Yep.
And a lot of people were pissed at their banks because banks had done a horrible job. So I think the timing component is really, really important.
Yeah, the market context, timing, absolutely. So you were there for 8 years, right? And then you decided to found your own company. So, one thing we talk about at Norrsken is we talk to a lot of founders, and one thing we try to communicate is that most likely this is going to be an absolutely horrible, horrible journey where your friends will outpace you in kind of financial growth in the short term, career growth, they go on into their 30s and they're very stable. Why? It's generally not fun until maybe it becomes fun financially, let's put it that way. So what from the Skype experience motivated you to be like, yes, I want to do this and I want to start my own company?
So I took the decision to quit Skype after 7-8 years, and I kind of felt that this is a very comfortable position to be in. I was sitting in a nice leather chair and I felt it sucking me in slowly, but surely. And I'm going to stay here and get paid well and do interesting stuff, but am I going to learn the most? Am I going to have the most impact? So I think the best way to change that is you just kind of cut the cord and you see what's going to happen next. So I made the decision that I'm going to leave Skype, see what's going to happen, and then started working on a number of things. I didn't have specific ideas that I want to be a founder.
Okay.
But I was like, hey, I want to do something interesting. I'm never going to go and work for the bank or the consulting company because it's just not interesting.
Yeah.
I would have been happy to join another startup who was building something great, but then somehow started speaking with Christo, who became my co-founder, and we found this humongous problem. And we were like, hey, there's a huge problem. there's a glitch in the matrix that we think needs to be fixed.
Yep.
We have a solution for it, so let's just try. Let's see where it goes. Like, I had a good idea of knowing what's going to happen if it works.
Yeah.
But we went very much step by step, kind of every year we dared to dream a bit larger. I had an idea based on my Skype experience if it works,
Yep.
hundreds of employees,
Yep.
thousands of employees, but we went kind of step by step. Even if anything, we were too cautious in the first year.
So what was your ambition? Was this like, we are going to build a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar tech company? Was that the thought from the outset? You said like ambition is scaling over time, right? And one thing lots of people look for in founding teams now is like huge vision. So in the beginning, what was it?
His ambition was to live another day. So basically, step by step, like to do something which is something which can be huge. So kind of understanding the facts that you need a huge market. You need a product which is a lot better. So we had this, but I don't think we ever set out we're going to build a multi-billion-dollar business. We were like, there's a big problem. We can have a dent at it. We'll have a go at it. We can build something big, but I don't think we ever really spoke or dreamed that way. But once we made 1 year and we saw we can actually build a good product, a lot of people are using it. So then we started having the confidence to dream bigger. So first year we moved 10 million euros. I mean, that's like 2 seconds of TransferWise today.
Yeah, but at the time.
But then we were like, 10, that's like, why would anyone ever trust 10 million with us? That seemed a leap of faith. We were looking at Western Union, which is like, the mainframe of money transfer. They were moving 80 billion a year in 2011. I think Western Union is moving maybe 60 billion a year today.
Wow.
Wise is moving 100 plus billion a year now.
Wow.
But at that point, you had to, maybe we just didn't have the balls, but it was very hard to look at like 80 billion a year. We're gonna beat that.
Yeah.
But after 2 years, we were like, hey, we're gonna continue compounding from here, and definitely we can do it. And also, it's a question of, what if we fail? What if we fail? What's gonna happen? Nothing. We're gonna go home.
You mean personal life? What happens to you next?
Go home, cry a bit, get up, and start again. Like, I think that there's a huge question. Like, I think a lot of people are so afraid of failure that they're afraid to start.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge mistake. That maybe it's a mistake that a lot more people are making in Europe compared to US or other places. Just afraid to start, afraid of the failure. And if bloody hell, I mean, I'm sad about what happened today, but there's somebody who has failed, gone bankrupt many times, and in the US they elect him as president. Or like, the kind of a standard thing in the US, you look at an entrepreneur who failed 3 times and he's experienced, I want to work with him. And they look at an entrepreneur who failed in France, it's like, put him to jail. Never want to work with him.
Yeah, I mean, I hope...
We need to change that attitude in Europe. It's changing.
Yeah, I think it is changing. And it brings me a little bit onto, you said the magic word in there, impact. It was about a minute ago, but you definitely said it. So I would argue that Skype and TransferWise probably have had bigger impact, in a positive sense, than most impact companies, right? So at any point in those journeys where you're like, wow, yes, we are impact. Did that ever come up?
I think it is a question of the word impact. And I've spent time arguing with Niklas, the founder of Klarna and Norrsken, about what impact means for him. And I think it's really how you use that word. If we look at the impact that Skype had, allowing people to connect and communicate.
Yeah.
My wife, who's here now, like I was actually living in many different countries, and it only survived because we were able to talk on Skype. Free high-definition video calls. If we look at Wise now, we've given back billions of dollars to consumers, which otherwise would have been paid out as bonuses to bankers. Huge impact.
Yeah.
But I think when I think of impact, I believe capitalism is a great way of having impact. It's not the only way of having impact, but building a business model, having an engine which can grow and scale and work and help more people, that is a humongous way of having impact. The only question is, do not get greedy. Make sure that your customers get more as a benefit. And I think that's a huge impact machine. At Skype, we spoke about delighting the user.
Yep.
At TransferWise, we spoke about giving money back, which otherwise banks would take.
Yep.
That's equals impact. I don't think we use impact word, which I think is a very loaded word, but definitely both are having huge impact. And if I think about investing in a company, investing in a payday lending company, that feels to me very anti-impact and probably immediate, not of interest.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I come from like a different lens, and I think global connectivity and the ability to talk to anyone at any time is probably one of the biggest ideas in terms of impact since sort of the printing press and spreading the Bible, right? For the first time, everyone can talk to each other, instant transmission of ideas, instant knowledge. Transfer-wise, I think you undersell it. I think global remittance flows, like in between even Europe and the developing world, this powers, the households, the educations, the healthcare of people across the world, right? People taking resources from a high economic earning zone and then transferring where they have more purchasing power for their families, typically. Like, it's typically not for a lot else, actually, on the consumer level. Looking after your grandma, like sending your kid to school. So I think you undersell it a little bit. Do you feel that?
Maybe, but I think it's a question of what vocabulary you use.
Yep.
I think about, I look at now we're building Plural and we're looking to fund the most ambitious entrepreneurs who are building something impactful.
Yep.
We have people who are trying to build a fusion power plant. There's so many ways of talking about it.
Yep.
We can talk about the kilowatt hours of energy it produces, or we can talk about the impact of free energy that we'll have in 50 years if we don't get burnt by them.
But you describe yourself as an impact VC.
No.
What, like, when you hear about other people talking about it that way, what like emotional feeling does that
I think
produce?
the problem to me is that in my head the word impact might be too loaded with purely non-profit.
Yep.
I think as a venture firm, we have a lot of kind of stakeholders. The biggest and most important stakeholder is the entrepreneurs. I'm not sure the entrepreneurs want to have impact, but I'm not sure they are going to go to an impact investor necessarily. I don't know. Then we have people who give us money, LPs, university endowments.
Yep.
They care about return on capital, and if we are investing other people's money, then we need to give them a return. That's what we promise them.
Absolutely.
So, but I think impact happens in so many ways during it. So entrepreneurs are all having impact. Like, we are looking at people who are trying to solve the biggest problems.
Yep.
The money that goes back to university endowments, that is funding scholarships and funding research. So I think it's just a question of different words to use, and maybe the word impact is not always associated in the past with the most ambitious ideas.
Correct.
But I do think a lot of the people, especially the younger people now, are very driven by impact and want to build something which is meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we use the word meaningful more than impact, but it means the same thing, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm hearing like tackling the world's biggest problems, almost like trapped within the current economic system we have that scales quickly, which is sort of the VC system. By the way, I don't have a dissimilar opinion. I've been hearing the word impact for the last 25 years, and it means absolutely everything. And then it's like, well, what is it exactly?
And I think that's maybe the problem that, some of the impact investing in the early 2000s, that's kind of tainted the word a little bit, maybe.
So let's,
I know, making a note to myself that maybe I should be more conscious, and it is a good word, and where everyone is looking to have impact. But
well, the sign on the door is Impact Week, so I just wanted to dig in, see where you stand. Oh, all good. So Plural, I know you guys have massive goals to tackle meaningful problems. So I'm thinking about how you're thinking a little bit about Europe and the impact you can have here. So I want to talk a bit about when you founded Plural, like, what was the goal? I would say there's a lot of venture capital firms out there, right? A lot of them in this room. Like, what did you set out to achieve with your own venture capital firm?
So again, there are so many ways of looking at it. We're 5 partners. We've all built businesses before.
Yep.
We'd all done lots of angel investing before, and we realized that to have impact, you don't have impact as an angel investor as kind of one of many checks on the cap table. We felt that really to have impact, we need more ambitious capital in Europe. So at when angel investing, I was doing 30, 40, 50 deals a year in the end, which felt a bit Wall Street-esque capital deployment.
It's high velocity.
Versus in Plural, I maybe make 2 investments a year now.
Okay.
We're very closely involved, and we think that we are better investors because we build companies. We think that's a scar tissue we have. allows us to be more impactful with the entrepreneurs. We can be better partners to them. And ultimately, if this works, we will help them in building the next generation of great European companies. We need more companies like Wise, like Spotify, like Klarna in Europe. We need more European tech champions.
Yep.
And then ultimately, if this works, then we will have had impact on GDP level on Europe. And so having GDP level impact or like accelerating GDP, at first I was looking at, oh my God, who came up with yet another buzzword? Like who came up with yet another empty slogan? But then the way I internalized it to me was, if I look at the tech sector in Estonia, the tech sector in Estonia has had GDP level impact on Estonia.
Can you give me a number on GDP level impact, just to put it into perspective?
Estonia has the most unicorns per capita. There's like 10 unicorns in Estonia.
Yep.
If you look at Wise, Bolt, Skype, like thousands of people, tens of thousands of people working for this.
Yep.
I don't have a GDP level number to give you. We should find this out. But the tech sector is growing 30% a year in Estonia.
Yep.
We can extrapolate this to be 20-30% of GDP in some years to come. I think if you look at Tallinn, you will.
But you're talking about like trillions now, no? Surely to like the European GDP to impact.
If it can happen in Estonia, it can happen anywhere.
Okay.
I think Estonia is one small example. I actually think UK, at least London, inside M25, I'm pretty sure we can find the same. And now, tech companies can be built anywhere. Would you believe it? So we're going to see this happen in Italy, in Portugal. I think we're seeing it happen in Barcelona. The city is changing because of tech, because of Norrsken House here. I mean, who would come to the beach to work? Nobody, but Norrsken makes it happen. I think the tech is having an impact everywhere. It is accelerating everywhere. And now I'm a firm believer that if we succeed with Plural, if we succeed in helping to build the next generation of European tech champions, we will help accelerate European GDP. And that's even more important this morning.
So that is just a crazy, massive, audacious goal, right? GDP level impact. I've talked to a lot of VCs over my time. No one talks about it in that way. Like to do that, these companies have to be meaningful, as you suggested, but also huge, ultimately.
But, a single 100 billion market cap company will have impact on European GDP.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are going to have these companies. We might even have a $1 trillion European tech company. So this need to wait a bit more. But
this brings me to the news of the morning, right? So I'm sure everyone woke up this week and today with like conflicting feelings a little bit. I think Spain has been through some tragic weather events. I was just happily watching the Liverpool game last night, and I flipped to the election. I was quite happy because Liverpool's my team; they were winning. And at that time last night, when I went to sleep, everything was looking, one way. I wake up this morning; it's very different. So, what does that mean for Europe? Right? I think we have a unique opportunity today. You have all these people in this room building companies, investing in companies. Like, what role, if anything, what springs to your mind when you think about Europe now in the next investment cycle, 5-10 years?
I mean, when we were talking about ideas for Plural, kind of like designing Plural in 2020, 2021, something close to our heart was the idea of European sovereignty. Like, in order for Europe to stay around 50, 100 years from now, we just need to be able to stand for ourselves. And this goes across everything. It goes from military to tech companies. Like, if we're looking at the tech world today, US is dominated by 6-7 huge public tech companies. China has their version of kind of a state-owned world.
Absolutely.
And Europe has a risk of being crushed between the two. So I think we need to build up our own ecosystem across everything. So there's probably room and even bigger urgency now to build a European version, maybe a little bit more humanist values-based, but like to build our own ecosystem. Like we need to do it in defense. Like one of the biggest concerns I have about today is what's going to happen to Ukraine. And even before the Ukraine war, we were thinking about we need to build a European defense companies, and one of the companies, Helsing, which one of the leading European defense companies, we've invested from Plural. We're very excited of how they're helping in Ukraine as well. But this becomes even more important. We need to build our own tech champions. I think the ground is fertile in Europe. The amount of people that are coming from universities who have the degrees in technology, science, it's probably bigger than US.
Yep.
The number of AI researchers in Europe is pretty big as well, very competitive. We just need to add a dose of urgency. We need to add a degree of risk-taking. And I've been active in this area for 20 years now, and I think there's been a dramatic change. We need a bit more, but I think the trend is going in the right way, luckily. So new company creation, Europe is now very similar to US.
Yeah.
So I think the trend is going in the right way, but we just need to accelerate it. I mean, the good thing is many people are talking about it, and now the question is, can we catalyze some more action behind it?
Yeah. No, thank you for speaking openly about it. I think to some extent it's been a little bit of a taboo, right? I think to have like impact, ultimately you need safety security. It's like basic Maslowian hierarchy of needs. And for the first time in 100 years, that's threatened, especially in Tallinn. I want to talk a little bit about like the opposite side of that. Yes, we need more founders. Yes, they have to have ambition. But like when you listed TransferWise, you did it in the US.
No.
Like, where did you do it? London?
Listed in London.
So I take it back. Why did you do that?
Very quick correction. I mean, it's frankly, there is a simpler and a more complex answer maybe. I mean, for us, actually, Europe is a home. So TransferWise or Wise, it's European headquartered, where our main regulator is FCA in UK.
Yep.
So it actually just made a ton of sense to do it in the UK. The flip side is, should we do it in the US? What's the benefit?
Yeah.
We spent years agonizing about it. We did road shows in both countries, spoke to the biggest public market investors, and we came away with the conclusion that there is very little benefit in listing in the US. The biggest investors know the business. We're a well-known company. We've been speaking to them for a long time. They will come and buy the stock anywhere. And there's a couple case studies. I forgot, was it Grubhub and Just Eat who were going public, same time, one US, one UK, same pricing. So on that level, we felt there is no real urgency to go to the US.
Which is contrarian.
And I still believe in that. However, looking back now, there is more retail involvement in the US stock market, which is an important element.
Yep.
Especially if you're a retail company, which Wise has sort of very few US customers in some sense. There's some of the technical details about how much free float you need, requirements. Europe is way behind. The London Stock Exchange, they've been doing some good work over the past 6 months about making it better, but I would still say probably US is winning on that sense. But I would actually pose a different question. We don't need multiple stock exchanges. We should just have one global one. Bloody hell, this is a tax on the system. The problem is, it's bloody hard to solve this.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of nationalistic feelings involved.
Correct, very tight.
But in some sense, it doesn't really matter. Wise could stay UK headquartered, UK incorporated, list in the US.
Yep.
What is the benefit US gets from it? Or what does Europe lose if Wise were to list in the US?
Like the argument is...
Except the nationalistic feelings.
Well, and then the money gets recycled often to a different ecosystem, right? So potentially being in London, having that money stay in London, and then, the next generation of angels, etc.
No. But where you are listed doesn't have a lot of impact on where your people are. Your people should be where your customers are. So, if Wise had listed in the US, maybe there would have been 10 jobs in the US instead of UK. So that's a pretty tiny impact for a workforce of 5,000.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So we're running out of time. I do have to tell everyone, if any of this piqued your interest and you want to carry on the discussion, we will be in the Speakeasy room.
Over that way,
which
upstairs.
Is upstairs to the right. So please come join us. We can talk about any or all of what we've been chatting about today. And just in the last few seconds, we have a lot of founders in the room today. Any advice you would give them?
Such a big open-ended question. I think the biggest thing is just get started. Quit your job. don't worry about failure. You know, you go home, your parents will cook you a meal, and you're gonna still get a job, and you're gonna get a better job because you have more experience than the other dude who did not try to be a founder. So don't be afraid of the risk.
Take the risk.
And then if you're building a business, you know, to me, like what you need to think about is, are you going after a huge market? You know, Skype and telecommunication, pretty big. Moving money around the world, pretty big. I think there are too many people who go after a small market, and it's not really wrong. Like these problems need solving as well, but it's not suitable for venture capital.
Correct.
It's gonna grow slower. Just be honest to yourself. Go after a big market, and make sure you have a product which is 10x better. You know, like if you're trying to do something and it's 10% better, like then you're gonna be in the category of toothpaste. You're advertising two identical products with two identical ads. You spend half your money on ads, and in the end, doesn't matter.
So much to cover. Please join me in thanking Taavet for really diving in on a lot of topics. Thank you. And yeah, we'll be in the speakeasy room. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Great.